There's a saying, no brakes, that perfectly describes both a car and a person. It's a common phrase in my story, though it took on two meanings at once. There were no brakes, and that's exactly why my wife, Malene, and her car are no longer with me. I have three passions in life, things I'd put above just about anything else: fishing, hunting, and cars. Fortunately, I'm not alone in these pursuits. I have a tight-knit group of friends who share the same interests: Samuel, Nathan, and Nicholas. Together, we venture deep into the woods, deliberately picking the roughest, muddiest routes to push our vehicles to their limits, all while indulging in the thrill of the hunt or the calm of fishing. I met Malene a little over 3 years ago. She enrolled in the driving school where I worked as an instructor, teaching beginners the ropes. The moment she slid into the training car for the first time, I couldn't help but notice her striking features and graceful figure. There was a 5-year gap between us, but that didn't stop me from looking forward to our lessons. She caught on fast, so fast that I knew it was only a matter of time before she aced her driving test. One day I mustered the nerve to ask her out. To my relief and maybe a little surprise, she gave me a warm smile and said yes. That's how it all started. A year later, we exchanged vows, and our wedding was filled with laughter and celebration. Naturally, I invited my closest friends, Samuel, Nathan, and Nicholas, who had been there through it all. Nicholas even stood by my side as my best man. A lot changed over the next 3 years, for me, at least. Looking back, I realized I had rushed into marriage. Before every trip I planned with my friends, there was always an argument. She'd say, "Honey, I'm going out with the girls for a bit. I won't be long. I hate staying cooped up at home." I, of course, pushed back. "You always come back drunk off your ass, causing a scene. And we don't have kids, not because we can't, because you don't want to." Malene knew how I felt, but that never stopped her. The next day, she would casually tell me she was heading out again, brushing aside any objections. I trusted her. It never crossed my mind that she might betray me. But every time she came back, the apartment reeked of alcohol. She'd collapse onto the couch and, out of nowhere, say, "We should get a new car. This one's too cramped." I had considered upgrading before, but every time, the sheer expense made me hesitate. The fights kept getting worse, more frequent. Malene started disappearing from home multiple times a week, only to return and reignite our arguments. I began to seriously consider divorce. Despite her youth, I felt nothing for her anymore. The love I once had was slowly morphing into disgust. I had always dreamed of a family, a warm home, a devoted wife, children running around. Instead, I found myself stuck with a woman who betrayed me over and over. Divorce seemed like the only way out. Then, in late July, Malene vanished again. Only this time, she didn't come back. She said she was out with friends. However, her so-called friends hadn't gone anywhere that night. She wasn't in any hospital, nor did she turn up in a morgue. 3 long days passed before I finally decided to contact the police. The search quickly escalated, with both law enforcement and volunteers joining the effort. A week later, they found her. The car was at the bottom of the river, completely submerged, with 2 bodies inside. My wife wasn't alone. Nicholas, my so-called friend, the man who had stood beside me at my wedding, was right there with her. Strangely enough, both of them were naked. Both of them were covered in blood. The autopsy confirmed what I had already suspected. Alcohol was in their system. As the investigation unfolded, the truth came to light. They had parked at the edge of a cliff by the river, wrapped up in the heat of the moment, completely oblivious to their surroundings. But they had made a fatal mistake. Neither of them had bothered to engage the handbrake. At some point, as they were lost in their drunken passion, the car started rolling. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The vehicle plunged into the river. The water was deep near the bank, and the car sank fast. Neither of them had time to react, to break free, to fight their way out before the cold, merciless current swallowed them whole. And just like that, my marriage was over. Do I feel sorry for Malene? Maybe a part of me does. But more than anything, I just hope this wasn't the last time I get to believe in love. New next story. I'm about to tell you something that happened in my own life, not some fictional tale. We met at work, both fresh-faced professionals, and spent a ton of time together on internships. Olivia had this laugh that would make you lose your mind. It was so infectious, you just couldn't help but fall for it. After a couple of months of hanging out, I popped the question, asked her to marry me. She laughed it off, saying it was too soon. So we kept going. No rings, no paperwork, just living life. 4 years went by like that. Then, out of nowhere, she left, only to show up again when I least expected it. One evening, she just turned up at my doorstep. A brief chat quickly spiraled into a storm of accusations from both of us. You kept me tied down for 4 years, and then you decide to marry some major after just 2 months? I yelled, unable to hold back. I never tied you down, she snapped back. Oh, really? Well, fine, you didn't tie me down. But what about all this? What's the deal with that? I threw up my hands, turning away in frustration. You've got your life, your comfort, your wealth. As always, money wins. I couldn't help but shout. Calm down, let's talk this through, she suggested, trying to steady the storm. I turned to face her. There were tears in her eyes. We have nothing to talk about, Olivia. Just go away, I said, heading for the door. But she grabbed my hand in desperation. Wait! You can't just throw me out like that when I just got here. This is important, she pleaded. But I was already pulling away. It's about my father. Her voice cracked with panic. We needed the money for his surgery. She started, then faltered, clearly lost in the moment. You need to leave now, I said softly, trying to keep my cool. Go back to your husband. She choked out a sob, clinging to me. I'm sorry too. I'm filing for divorce, she sobbed, wrapping her arms around my neck and pressing her face into my chest. I stood there, frozen, unable to bring myself to return her embrace. I felt like I was the one responsible for her father's situation. I need time to forgive, I whispered, my hand gently stroking her back. She kept crying, but now anger edged her tears, not sorrow. It was a different kind of connection, but it was there. You have to forgive me, she demanded, her voice shaky. I sighed. Please, calm down. Calm down, I said, trying to soothe her. She still cried, but this time, it felt like a mix of everything. Resentment, regret, and something else. Something I couldn't name. Something that still lingered between us. I had no idea what to do, what to say to make her stop. Well, do you want to visit your dad? I asked, unsure if it was the right thing to say. No. She shook her head. He won't get it. And he doesn't even know I left my husband. Wait, you ran away? The shock was impossible to hide. Do you realize the mess you're in? Are you out of your mind? What are you doing? I could feel the tension rising, thickening the air between us. Things had just taken a turn. Cheating Secrets podcasts like me,